Hi, and welcome to one of my favorite editions of all things aviation and aerospace, an entire show dedicated to informing you about aviation scholarship opportunities. I am your host, Vince Mickens, and as you all know, this podcast is about showcasing opportunities and presenting possibilities that are available in the aviation and aerospace industries, regardless of your skill set. If you like being in and around aviation, well, there's something for all of you in our world of aviation. Of course, all things aviation and aerospace is available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I have two great guests from two great aviation associations, and between the two of them, they are going to cover everything from scholarships that will help you start in aviation or get your start in aviation to scholarships that will help you advance your career as an aviation professional. Joining me today is a dear friend and colleague from Women in Corporate Aviation, Tracie Carwile. Tracie is currently the CEO and Executive Director on the Board of Directors for Women in Corporate Aviation. And in addition to that and being a mom, her day job is being the Vice President, Global Sales and Inclusion for GGT Worldwise. Tracie, it's so nice to have you back. I believe the last time you were on was my annual Mother's Day special.
That is correct. Pleasure to be back.
It's great to have you. And then from one of the leading aviation organizations for familiarizing yourself with all aspects of aviation, in kind of a grassroots sort of way. As a matter of fact, some call its annual Air Venture Aviation Festival of sorts, the Coachella of aviation events. We'll talk all about that in more detail a little later. Right now, I'd like to introduce Rebecca, or better known as Becca, Greskoviak. Becca is the Scholarship and Fund Stewardship Coordinator for the Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA Aviation Foundation. Now that I screwed all that up, Becca, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Great to
Glad
be
you
here.
could join us. Absolutely. So this is really great. I'm always talking, we were talking about a little bit in pre-show. I'm always talking to folks about the various opportunities for getting a scholarship, because the first thing I always hear is how expensive it is to fly or to learn to fly or to, get into aviation in certain respects. So it's kind of cool to be able to do this. And I do a couple of shows a year just specifically about scholarships. You guys have some great scholarship opportunities with both of your organizations. And so I'm really looking forward to us just kind of, you know, going through that and providing as much information as possible for our audience to move forward with possibilities for themselves, for their children, students, et cetera, and so forth. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with that. And I'll start with you, Tracie. Women in Corporate Aviation, not sure how many people actually know about the organization. So maybe we can just start out telling us a little bit about Women in Corporate Aviation and your involvement, and then we'll talk about some of your scholarship programs.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We are 30 plus years strong, so we just celebrated our 30th year last year. So
Wow.
we've definitely been around for a little while, but to your point, yes, I think not as many know about us that we would like, especially because of the impact that we have had over the 30 years and being able to see that visibility within our members, and then as well as some of those members and scholarship winners even going on to work at some of those corporations that have also been longtime sponsors. It's been beautiful to see. We actually got our start as part of a spin-off of the Women in Aviation International conference, right? There were several pilots and members of that group that needed a little bit more focus. And as we know, for those of us that are working in the business and the corporate aviation side, there are a lot of different opportunities career-wise if you are not flying pilot-wise. So specifically, we have different regulations outside of commercial airlines for general aviation and private aviation, and being able to have a group that focuses on the professional development for our members in that space has been critical. We For business aviation and corporate aviation, it is a different side of regulations from aircraft mechanics to flight attendants for those technical roles to even those that are people might not even know about, meaning data software, sales, aircraft brokering, and schedulers and dispatchers. So the need was there for an association to grow and get some of that talent on the business aviation side and maintain that and kind of compete with the airlines and get our name out there that we are an opportunity for a career path and for growth opportunities. So that's what we provide to our members. That's where you can find us. And our main pillars are mentoring, networking, and scholarship. So I know we'll dive into those opportunities specifically as well.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit and explain fundamentals to those in our audience that may not be familiar with corporate aviation and business aviation. So we're basically talking about companies that use aircraft to fly for
Absolutely.
business purposes. And then you took it a step further in that, yes, you can be a pilot, you can be a corporate pilot and things like that, or you can be a mechanic working on those aircraft, et cetera. But then there's all these other opportunities that
Absolutely.
come into play that a lot of times people don't know about. So you mentioned flight attendant. Yeah, there's the flight attendant on the airlines that has to take care of anywhere from 50 to, 250 people. And then there's the corporate flight attendant that may only be responsible for one or two or three people on that corporate jet that's flying to wherever and that type of thing. So I just wanted to share that with our audience to kind of let them know that this is what you're talking about. And when you talk about, for example, you mentioned scheduling and dispatching, well, that's the people that actually schedule where the aircraft go and take care of what their needs are. You can probably explain that better than me about how that works.
No, absolutely. That is a great example logistics wise. So immediately when you think about business and corporate aviation, what the first thing that comes to my mind is access and the opportunity, right? And women in corporate aviation, we serve our members and the industry by making that connection and ensuring that those corporations that do have openings know that our members are interested in those.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side of the fence, so to speak, is general aviation, which business aviation is a part of, but we're talking more about somebody that's just getting started, wants to get their private pilot's license and fly a small plane. And that's where the Experimental Aircraft Association, better known as EAA, really comes into play. Becca, we have a lot of ground to cover with you too, and we're going to cover it with both of you, but I wanted to, at least at the beginning of the show, let people kind of know a little bit more about what EAA is and does, and then we'll talk more about the scholarships and the scholarship programs that you guys have.
Definitely. Yeah, so we are EAA, as Vince said. EAA does stand for the Experimental Aircraft Association. So that name really comes from our first mission of really tearing down the barriers to aviation, a lot of the time that being money. So people would have the opportunity to build their own planes, which were available at a portion of a cost that you could buy a new plane for. And that's still in high desire today of people building
All
their own
those,
aircraft.
yeah, we call those home builds.
Yeah. And really from there, we've expanded to be able to be one of the leaders in aviation promoting safety programs, government advocacy, as well as different education opportunities. So we do have the scholarships, definitely, like Vince said, but we do also have opportunities for kids to get interested in aviation and the STEM world, really learn the basics of being a pilot, opportunities to come to our big air show in the summer, Air Venture, which happens at the last week of each July, where you can come and explore really any area of aviation that you would like, whether that is home built, whether that's military aircraft, and really just watch the show and be involved with the whole community there,
It is
as well.
one big aviation festival. I'm not going to let you undercut it. It is one to really attend. And it does happen the last week of July, but the thing, and I've been to so many of them, so I can step on you a little bit and say, hey, let's talk about this Air Venture thing for a minute, because last year you guys had almost 700,000 people attend
We did.
in 7 days.
Yes.
And people start coming about a week before it starts, and they're still leaving several days after it's over. And one of the things that I know that I've witnessed and that are really great is that I mean, let's see, it's close to 5,000 aircraft that fly in for the show. If I'm not
We're
overstating,
closer to 10 grand this year. Yep.
I'm
A
sorry,
whole lot.
10,000?
Yes. So whether that's the
Oh, so
people
I was
actually flying in
understating.
the show, you were understating. Yeah. So there's not only
Yeah,
those who are flying in the show, but the people who are bringing their either home built or bought planes, flying them
exactly.
in to camp under the wing for the week.
Exactly. And if you can just imagine how many aircraft that is, I really can't believe I undercut it like that. All I know is that everywhere you look on that airport and is a aircraft. I mean, it's a huge, and then you see a section for campers and motorhomes, and you see people camping with tents under their wings. And all of that. And as you just mentioned, everything from the home built that somebody built in their garage to, uh, aircraft from World War One and Two,
Yep.
and the other wars, and then all of the other things. What they call that, the what's that section called? I can't think of it right this second. But anyhow, it's and then there's all these forums and workshops and
Mm-hmm.
all of these different things going on. So if you want a taste of aviation out of a fire hose, then it's definitely the place to go. Um, Let me while we're on EAA and Air Venture and everything, because there are so many opportunities there. Why don't we start out by talking about, first of all, talking about two of the areas that are probably that stand out in terms of scholarships, and one of those would be for flight training, and the other would be for what you call post-secondary. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, so we do have the two main areas of scholarships. So the flight training, exactly what it sounds like. If you are looking to learn how to fly or to expand your flying skills, we do have those scholarships available. Around 35 we do give out per year. And those really do range from your private pilot license, if you wanted to learn how to teach and become a certified flight instructor, if you're looking to fly corporate, if you're looking to fly commercial, all of those ratings do count within that flight training portion. And then the post-secondary portion that we do have, similar numbers around 30, 35 we give out per year. And those are for either your college programs, for tech schools, anything like that. So your commercial aviation bachelor's degrees, your business corporate aviation, A&P license to be able to work on planes. So all of that would get lumped into that category as well.
Yeah, aircraft and power plant. So this is something I can talk with both of you about, because both of you are providing scholarships that can forward somebody's career possibilities.
Absolutely.
Whether it's introducing them and moving them forward in their career, like you just said, whether it's an A&P or other types of things with flight training, or on your side of it, Tracie, the aviation professional, and things like for being a flight attendant, or you have maintenance. Well, so why don't you tell us about a few of yours, Tracie, rather than me reading it?
No, that's perfect. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, because there are so many different opportunities, even within the different scholarship programs, we want to make it as best as possible, but we usually partner with a corporate entity, right? And we've learned that leadership means a lot of things, right? So yes, if it's advanced type rating, you can use it for flight hours, but you can also use it for other things, right? So if you're not flying, and say that you are maintenance professional and you don't need it for class, but you need a set of tools, right? It's really important to look at what you need and the different scholarship opportunities, and think holistically about what your actual needs are, maybe not even just for right now, but in the future. Being women in corporate aviation and membership driven, and we are small, the expectation is that that money is going to make a big impact for you, right? So what we like to do is make sure, one, that you're a member. So that's really important. For student memberships, it's only $25. And if there is a student that's in need, we do have additional volunteer donations. So please always reach out to us. So you do have to be a member to have access and be able to apply for our scholarships, and it's a $50 if you're a non-student. So I do like to just mention that. So it's a low cost investment. And then as well, because we do know that these monies and often donations are really life changing, what I want you to think about is, when you're looking at your time and your schedule, especially for those that are starting out or still in high school, going to the collegiate level, where are you spending your time? Not just studying, but those extracurricular activities, because the monies that you are asking for and applying for the scholarship, because it is impactful and because a lot of times that is donating, if we just hear from you for the first time just to apply for the scholarship, we want you to be engaged. We want you to make connections with us. So it is something that I want those that are starting out to think about. A lot of times people are saying they're applying for a lot of scholarships out there. One of the things that we do hear back in feedback is engagement, right? The more people you know, the stronger that you have relationships with us, also impacts the other parts of your application, like the essay portion and what you choose to put on there and your engagement with us. And that can strengthen your essay even more, or in line with maybe some of the other requirements. So I do want to just talk about that, especially for those that are maybe just thinking about applying for scholarships or don't know which ones they should apply for, because there are a lot out there. I think it's really important to think about your time and your engagement and what is a scholarship. If you really need this and it's impactful, that also means that someone else really wants to give it to you in hopes that there's a ongoing relationship. And that is the difference between business aviation and corporate aviation and general aviation than the airlines. We are smaller, we are a niche. It's not likely that you're going to hear you're just a number, and that is kind of a good and a bad thing, right? So those are some things to keep in mind on the corporate side.
Yeah, you're bringing up some excellent points, and it's when you talk about engagement and networking, that's one of the huge values of an organization like Women in Corporate Aviation, EAA, and some of the other alphabets that are out there. Is that ability to engage, which I think is a very appropriate word. It's also very important because we are a relatively small industry in that respect. And even on the airline side, it's not that much bigger, but corporate aviation is a smaller side. But the importance of networking and being engaged can take you a lot further in your career, a lot more effectively, and actually a lot quicker than if you're just kind of an outsider, just kind of hanging out on the edge and apply for it. It's funny because I had that conversation with you, Becca, the other day when we were having a pre-show call, and you were talking about that on your side of it, about the importance of the engagement and the involvement and passion of people that are interested and want to apply for a scholarship. You want to kind of expand on that a bit?
Of course, yeah. That experience and that engagement is really one of the biggest things that we do look at when reviewing applications. So for our applications, we don't require students to be an EAA member for a couple of reasons. One, there is, of course, that financial investment that some students may not be able to afford, really breaking down that barrier, but also because there are so many other great opportunities out there where you could be involved in 100 different things and never have touched EAA. I mean, we don't want to discount those students either. But even internally within EAA, there are so many free opportunities to get involved that should be utilized, especially when you are applying for an application. So, going back to Air Venture, students 18 and under get in free. So if you are in the area, we're in Wisconsin in Oshkosh. If you are in the area or do have that opportunity to travel, we do have that free entrance for students, as
Book
well
your
as,
hotel ahead of time.
yes, definitely. They fill up quickly. For
Sounds
sure.
like it.
Yeah, people come in and take over Oshkosh. They take over the entire city, the airport, and not just there. Appleton, which is adjacent to Oshkosh, and a couple of other cities. They just come in and take it over. And then there's
Mhm.
float planes on that. We didn't mention that. Not to cut into what you're saying, but there's also float planes on the lake nearby.
Yes.
So there's just a lot there. But yes, free membership for 18 and under, which is fantastic.
Yep.
That's probably at least 100,000 of the attendees.
Definitely. We do also have a couple hundred chapters around the country and around the world as well, where students can take a free, we call them Young Eagle flights. We gave around 60,000 this past year. So if you do live near an airport or near an EAA chapter, definitely check out those opportunities to get a free flight to see if flight is something that you're definitely interested in. And
So
you can
let's
take a
break
couple
that
of
down
those
for
as
a
well.
second because the EAA chapter, they can find out where a chapter is and the contact information on your website, right?
Yep. If you
And
go to
do
our
they have to be a
website,
member to do that?
they do not. Nope.
Okay,
But that does kind of cycle into my next point of if you do take a Young Eagles flight, you do get a free student membership.
there you
And
go.
that student membership can open a lot of doors. One being our Aero Educate program, which is a fully online STEM program, ages K4 through 12th grade. So to take a Young Eagles flight, you do have to be at least 8 years old, but we do start those Aero Educate programs at the K4 level and go all the way through 12th grade. And like I said, entirely free program. Has a lot of great lessons in there that teach you not only the basics of flying, but also for different STEM activities, physics, learning, um, you know, sheet metal, welding, those basics as well are included in those lesson plans.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let me
I was
go
going to
to,
say, no, that
go
sounds
ahead,
great.
Trace.
I'm actually so glad to say that, Becca. I will say that my son, he's 13. Well, he did his Young Eagles flight last year, and we had been signed up for a while. So even if you're not ready, I know she said the 8-year age limit, but you can still sign up for your local chapter or a couple local chapters and just be on the email list to even stay up to date without even signing up or any commitment needed. And then when it came around to us being available, we were able to take the flight and he loved it. But I did not realize as well that he had access to that online information. So
Aero
even
Educate. Yeah.
myself, and I know I get the EAA emails as well. So I need to make sure I go in there and absolutely sign up. So I really appreciate that.
Of
So
course.
one of
Yeah.
the
And
things that
Invaluable. It's invaluable.
one of the things I like about the Young Eagles program and through the EAA chapters, I tell people all the time that there's a lot of people that say they want to fly, but they haven't really experienced it yet in actual flying an airplane. And sometimes they fall in love with it. Many times they do, and there's sometimes they go, "Oh, so that's what this is about." Okay, I'm
one
good.
of the biggest feedback we get from that program, students love it because the pilot lets them take over the reins of actually flying the airplane. So for a couple
Exactly.
seconds, they do get to actually fly an airplane on their own.
Yeah, and then they find out if they really love it or not. And
Yep.
my point about that is, and I like to emphasize this in aviation. You touched on it a little bit earlier, Tracie, and that is whatever your skill set is, it's applicable. So you don't
Yes.
have to be a pilot. Yes, it's great to be a pilot. I've been a pilot all my life, well, most of it. But you don't have to be a pilot. You can work on an aircraft, as you mentioned earlier. You can work as a mechanic, as an avionics technician. You can be a flight attendant, a corporate flight attendant. I mean, in this case, in private aviation. So there's all kinds of other things that can be done in the industry.
Correct.
You just mentioned some of the things, Becca, that you guys have at EAA, in addition to that first flight, and opportunities for them to learn other things that are related to our aviation world. So I think it's really great that both of you are emphasizing that and that's something that's available there. I wanted to get down to some nitty gritty, and I'll
Yep.
go to you first, Tracie, on scholarships. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about the scholarships like EJM and Solaris, et cetera, and what those are specifically.
Absolutely. So we have two scholarships rounds. This is the spring. So we do have a fall round, which is amazing. So, in partnership with EJM, we're offering an advanced leadership scholarship, and it does have some requirements on there. So, if you're within your career and looking to level up, there are the scholarships will put those requirements on there, right? Women in corporate aviation, while we do support those entering the workforce, we are a great resource for those that are in aviation already, either looking to transition or enhance their skills. Like Becca said, there's no such thing as people that stop learning in aviation, right? Continuous education and professional development, right? And some of those specific things, leaderships, is the MBA CAM, the Certified Aviation Management Program. Taking that program they have a 6-month course that you can do leading up to it, and that's certification, as well as attending the leadership conference and some other specific items. And if they're not listed, we do have the option. So it's really about identifying what you're looking for. And if it doesn't fit in that scholarship, this one particularly does allow for another leadership. For example, last year we had someone for the first time say, I would like to go to a leadership program that was sponsored by Kellogg, and it is another corporate company. It did not have to do with aviation, it had to do with leadership. And that course was within the $2,500. So they asked us specifically based on the requirements, because it's a little bit open to leadership. That person took it upon themselves to even reach out and ask longstanding member, would this be covered? And for the first time, we said we were able to send someone to a leadership opportunity that specifically helped them where they were needing. It was someone that was a mid-management and was looking to go to that next level at an executive level. So the opportunities are great, and we would not be able to do that without EJM and their focus and understanding, especially in the midpoint and when women start having careers and family planning. So it's not just women, that those transitions happen, and a lot of time it comes into play on that leadership journey. So we do have a section specifically for leadership and advanced scholarships in this round. We do have these two, but that is not always for specifically advanced rating. The one for our partnership with Netflix as well, you already have to have your private pilot's license. And that's really to help keep those in the industry there, regardless of if it's
And
pilot or
moving forward.
maintenance. Exactly. Whatever that professional development opportunity looks like for you. For the Solaris one specifically, it is pilot specific, right? So if you're looking to get your ATP or become a multi-engine pilot specifically, you need to look at the actual offering to see if that's exactly where your best opportunity lies, right? We do have one that if you're not at advanced rating, the Women in Corporate Aviation Netflix scholarship, right? You're able to do that for schedulers and dispatchers, for maintenance professionals, for those, maybe if you're looking to go to AirVenture and you're over 18, right? So those other opportunities, that's something that I like that's different about Women in Corporate Aviation. Based on our sponsorship with that corporate partner, they're able to kind of identify where they would like to make an impact in this specific scholarship round. So we definitely want to thank Solaris, EJM, Netflix, all of our sponsors specifically for this scholarship round. And then we have some that for if you're new, for completely starting out. And I know it's all the way at the bottom, so I don't want to miss it, but the professional development one, Mr. Scott Arnold is a long time partner of Women in Corporate Aviations and SA Jet Solutions. They have a course called the Professional You, and they offer it to us twice a year for each round, and it never fails. 1, 2, 3 years later, each person that wins continuously comes back and says, by the way, this is why this course changed and helped me and how I was apply it. So I always want to shout that out, that we all can use some professional development work introspectively and to also to look at that one as well.
Yeah, that's great what you've just provided. I wanted to also, while we have you, talk about your flight attendant scholarships. And I think one of the things I want to emphasize about being a corporate flight attendant, because I've been to several of the training sessions as an observer. I've been to the Da Vinci In-Flight Training Institute down in Florida. And one of the things, even for me, having been on aircraft for a long time, both as a pilot and a passenger, I'm I think it's understated how specialized being a corporate flight attendant is, because there's a lot more to it when you're dealing with high net worth people or celebrities or whatever the case may be, or families that are very wealthy and that type of thing. There's some things that you really have to be on top of in terms of the service you provide, the catering on the aircraft, specific to their desires and needs, and all of those kind of things. And I think these opportunities for training, whether you're currently one or whether you want to be one, really come into play.
I think it's vital, absolutely. I do want to highlight because unfortunately Hollywood doesn't do a great job of showing all the aspects of flight attendants and cabin crew. I think
It's
they've kind
Hollywood.
of
I mean, come
focused on
on.
one specific area, which you highlighted, which is serving food, and that's kind of the experience, because I fly commercially as well, just like everyone else, and that's kind of our experience with flight attendants, right? But to your point, that is not the same level of service. One thing, flight attendants and cabin crew are crew members. They are not food delivery service providers. So I really like to start off with that. A crew member has specific skill set and training, as well as they have to be trained in the back of that plane for safety, for emergency landing.
Absolutely.
This is a
Absolutely.
career and a skill set that has nothing to do with food for starting out. And I do think that some people do not understand that level. And business and corporate aviation, we take safety and security to the extreme. We have to know who's in the back of the plane. We have to know who the passengers are. That's actually a requirement for every single flight. We know which personnel and crew member. To your point, these are really high stakes and specialized situations, which
And
means
they
the
have to know
important,
the aircraft.
and you have to know the absolutely, that skill
Yeah.
set and learning goes beyond food. So I really want to preface that not only the industry, but women in corporate aviation, our members, our flight attendant members, we know what you do. We know what your worth is, and we are absolutely here to ensure, as well as amplify that across the industry. They're crew
Yeah.
members as
I
well.
actually wanted to emphasize what you're saying, though, because it's a good example. There was, and
Recent,
forgive that we've had a spate of accidents, but
yes,
before that, there was an accident in Florida,
yes,
and it was the flight attendant that saved everybody on that aircraft
yes,
because she knew where the emergency exit was. She knew how to get everybody to it. And we're talking a small jet. We're not talking something where everything's obvious and it seems like it'd be easy, but she had done everything right. And
correct.
she saved everybody's life on that aircraft. Actually, she was featured at last year's National Business Aviation Association, NBAA, was featured at their convention as a keynote speaker. And she had everybody practically in tears, et cetera, because she was
Absolutely.
so passionate about her responsibility as a corporate flight attendant. But, if she had, as you said, if she was just serving food, they'd probably all be gone, literally.
Correct.
I mean, it's that critical and that
Correct.
important. And it goes for commercial too. I mean, that's their, as you said, their crew. The giving you a soda or something to drink or eat is a not even secondary, it's a tertiary function. It's your
Absolutely.
safety that's number one. So point taken about that. And you guys have some great scholarships
Yes,
uh
that
to
cabin
help.
safety training, I always absolutely point out. Da Vinci is a longstanding partner. You said that you've been there because they do offer the culinary, but that cabin safety training, regardless of where you go, Air Care Facts, and we do have multiple scholarship offerings that all include either your initial or your recurrent with that cabin safety training. So we highly recommend any member, if you're transitioning from commercial to flight attendant, or you have an interest in becoming a corporate pilot, it is a must. And we want to ensure that you have the best opportunity as well in our industry. So we absolutely offer that. So not only does that cabin safety training, like you mentioned, Vince, emergency exit, but it's CPR training, right? It's life-saving emergencies. You do have to know your plane, and it's taking you outside of the environment of your corporate company where you might be reluctant to ask questions or things like that, and really a focused environment that is nothing but teaching and training your skill set. So it's critical as well for those recurrent trainings, right? And if you're not with a company and you are doing the contract role, you are usually expected to pay those fees on your own, which means that can
Exactly.
corpse travel that eats into a lot of your also personal expenses. So these are not necessarily just for those initials. We do offer recurrent. If you need a refresher, if you want to take a new food handling, I've seen specific halal and specific courses that are applicable to enhancing your skill set, and you're able to specifically do that with these scholarship opportunities and offerings with a partner that is also committed to making an impact in the industry.
Yeah.
VVIP International, they are also a longstanding partner as well. And some of these are also offer you do not have to be based in the United States. So if you're not in the United States and you're one of our international members, I want to highlight that several of these
Oh, that's very
opportunities
cool.
are
Very cool.
offered online, and or if you do happen for your work to travel like a flight attendant and you do travel to the States and that opportunity arises, we can work with your scheduling for when you're in the States. We're very flexible. We just ask that your scholarship be used within the year, and those are kind of the fine prints items as you go to apply for some of these scholarships that are listed on the page, but we give you a full 12 months.
Yeah, one of the things you just mentioned too that's really cool. So Da Vinci actually has a cutaway cabin of the actual size
Yep.
of a particular aircraft, a private aircraft. I won't
Donated.
get into the
Amazing.
numbers and everything, but and they have a galley in it and everything, and and so they can practice the emergency procedures and everything else that goes with that. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that. I haven't talked to you in a while, Becca, so let me come back to you for a minute because I there's a few things that really want to point out. So on the other end of the spectrum of people going back to people just getting started with flying and entering flying as a kid, and wanting to either get their private pilot's license, or in this case, what you're going to tell us about is that they can also get their glider certificate, which, by the way, learning how to fly an aircraft that doesn't have an engine, that's a skill and all in itself. It's also very cool, and it actually teaches you things that can be very valuable to you as a private pilot in a powered aircraft, say. And just to throw that sidebar in there, the aircraft that landed on the Hudson, the reason it landed was minimally damaged and everybody survived was because the captain had glider training early in his career, and he applied that when he was dealing with an emergency landing of that aircraft on the Hudson River. So anyhow, Becca?
Yeah, so glider training is really popular among especially some of our younger students. For private pilot license, for an aircraft, you do need to be at least 16 years old to be able to solo an aircraft. So that's where all of our scholarships do start, at that 16-year-old age. But if you are interested in getting started earlier on or interested in glider, that's where that glider does come in, because you can start it at age 15. So within that, we do have a third scholarship program, which we call our Ray Aviation Scholars. And those are a little bit more tailored to EAA members and EAA chapters. So if you are a student member at an EAA chapter, so they have those locally, we do have the Ray Aviation Scholarship, where you can get the amount of funding to either fully fund your Ray Aviation Scholarship, or for the private pilot license, or for glider training. So definitely for our students who are around that 14, 15 age frame, that is a popular direction to go in. Along that age frame as well, we do have our Air Academy camp here on location in Oshkosh throughout the summer.
Let's talk about the camp for a second. The camp is pretty cool. I actually saw the facilities for that camp, and I wanted to go, but I'm too big.
Yeah, so for students between the ages of 14 and 18, we do have our Air Academy camp. So students will get hands-on experience with not only flight, so you get to take a flight in a Cessna aircraft, so a single-engine aircraft, as well as in our Bell helicopter, which is the helicopter
so you
that
get
was
both experiences.
both experiences. So in an fixed-wing aircraft as well as in a helicopter. And then you get hands-on experiences in non-flight as well. So you'll be able to do a sheet metal project, you'll learn welding, you'll be able to do a composite program. You get to go on our flight simulators. Those are all donated to us, Redbird flight simulators. You'll have the opportunity to play around on those as well.
I was going to say, you have that in the dorm as well as in the education center, correct?
Yes, yeah. So the ones both in the dorm and the education center are not only used for our kids, but are used for our pilot safety programs here, which is another thing that our foundation does sponsor is pilot safety programs. So you can have pilots who go in to be able to do those mock-ups on if it's a really windy day, if you don't have any visibility conditions, if maybe you haven't flown a plane in a while and you're getting back into it. Being able to do simulator time is essential to increasing that safety aspect of training.
That's in the Redbird simulators, right? In the
Correct,
education
yeah.
center? Yeah,
Yeah.
which are great. Those are great simulators. They're partial motion. I almost said full motion. I guess you could kind of call them that. You just can't roll the aircraft. But anyhow, they're great. And the other thing is coming back to the camp for the kids. I mean, that dorm is amazing. You know, it's got the bunk beds and everything, but it's got a game room facility downstairs that the kids can also enjoy when they're not learning something about aviation and things like that. I just think it's a very thorough and complete program.
Yes, definitely. And really two things I do want to bounce off on you of. First of all, the scholarships that we do have can help cover camperships, is what we call it, to attend our Air Academy camp. So if you are attending the camp, we do have that opportunity to help cover the tuition costs for you, to really break down that financial barrier of being a student and being able to attend our camp here.
Outstanding.
And with having those scholarships and with having the facility, all sponsored by donor dollars. And that's something as well that our full scholarship program is sponsored by, and all the other activities that we do at EAA are sponsored by our donors. So none of our scholarships would exist. Our education facility here wouldn't exist without the donor program that we do have here.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask both of you, and either one of you can answer in whatever order, it doesn't matter. One of the things, so I do a couple of these a year, and one of the things that always comes up that for one reason or another, sometimes kids are kind of almost scared to apply for these great scholarships. And usually the part that scares them the most is the essay that usually is part of it. So for each of you, if you could each, and I'll start with you, Becca, if you could just tell us a little bit about the application procedure, maybe some recommendations that you have for young people and their parents that are helping them apply for these scholarships.
Yeah, starting off for anyone out there, you cannot and will not get a scholarship if you do not apply for one. So take that fear out the door and throw it away, because you kind of have to take that fear. And if you're not afraid to do a flip in a plane, why should you be afraid to start an application?
That's a good way to start.
Yeah. But really, the essays, I went through the college process myself. Sometimes they had you write really long, detailed essays that had to be perfect, and that's not what we're looking for. We have 4 short application prompts. Only a couple sentences each are needed to be able to write those prompts. But we're not looking for the best writing we've ever seen. We are looking for your excitement and your passion and your motivation towards aviation. One thing when I was talking to Vince earlier last week, I was like, we can tell if it's not written by you. So if you have a parent or older friend write it for you, we can tell. We can tell if you're using AI to write it because it's too perfect. And we're looking for you. We're looking for your personality, and we're looking for that passion. So while we do have a lot of applicants who come through each year, the top ones definitely get shine to the top just based on the heart that we see come in through their application and their essays.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And it is the passion. And when I tell people that are interested or their kids are interested, I said, hey, just be yourself and talk about why you're so interested or why you love aviation. And usually that in itself can do the trick. The other thing I suggest is being persistent about it. So if you do a round of scholarship, apply during a round of scholarships and you don't make it, come back next year and try it again. You guys don't have any restrictions on that, right? They can reapply.
Yep. Yeah, even if you do win a scholarship one year and you need it for an advanced rating or for your second year of college, you can definitely reapply. If you didn't get it the first year, definitely reapply and reach out to us. We can help refine your application and give you some suggestions on how to, bolster you for the next year. And I know that both me and Tracie covered it in the beginning of the call, but one of the biggest things we look for is experience and involvement. So if you didn't get a scholarship and you apply for one, join some clubs, take some flights through our Young Eagles program, volunteer at an airport, attend air shows, build an RC plane, anything, it doesn't have to be you don't have to go out and buy your own plane for us to see that you're interested in aviation. There's so many other activities out there, so many great organizations, and there's some place that everyone can fit in.
Absolutely. Tracie, you want to chime in there?
So the one thing first that came to my mind for young students, and I'm always trying to push my son, who we just yesterday we went to course enrollment for high school. So countdown is on the way. But I'm always trying to encourage him to think about those different ways that your personality specifically can shine, and what is unique to you that you like to do. One of the things that for aviation, the gap that we know is access, right? And a lot of schools don't have either their school program, or the students or their counselors aren't even aware of EAA or the opportunities. So the first thing that I would think of as I was a young student is, how can I share this with my school and then tell EAA how I shared that, right? I would love to that to be one of those ways that the message continues to get out there, seeing students kind of bring the messaging and the offering and the opportunities back into their own school and use that, as part of their essay and engagement as well. So, there's tons, like you said, tons of opportunities and heart, and get creative. So it's not just when you're starting out as well. For scholarships specifically, there is no skill or opportunity that's wasted from applying at all, right? If you think about what you have to do to apply for a scholarship, it's only a benefit. And if you can change your perspective of what your outcome is every single time, you're able to write about yourself, to highlight your skills and accomplishments, to speak to your peers and maybe mentors or sponsors to get letters of recommendations and be able to articulate your needs and wants and your future expectations. Again, there is no downside of that, even if you do not win the scholarship. So that's something that I also want to just highlight. Yes, it's about doing your work ahead of time and being engaged and getting the free resources. WCA specifically, we have our own YouTube channel. And every single summer we have a Sweet 16 summer series. And every single year we do an updated scholarship YouTube video. And I can tell immediately if someone just didn't even watch the video at all, regardless of if they read the expectations, because we've taken the opportunity to put those resources in place to better help you, like Becca said, and refine that process so we can offer the scholarship to more people. Maybe you've never applied for a scholarship before, so those free resources that are out there that we offer, please take advantage of that, even if it's reaching out to Becca or looking at our YouTube, because that's where we're trying to widen that access and level the playing field to highlight what we've seen in the past of mistakes or things that are left off, or letters of recommendation specifically. They need to be new, they need to be relevant, they need to be specific to the scholarship that you're applying for. My organization and our organization that we're talking about is Women in Corporate Aviation. We have and do, and this past round in the fall, receive 3 scholarships out of, I think it was like almost 400. And 3 of those, the letters of recommendation sent were not for our organization. So you can tell that someone just kind of copy and pasted and just smacked on and used a letter of recommendation for someone else. That's where the engagement piece comes in. That's where the integrity comes in. That's where being an actual, a member or not being a member in EAA specifically. But I really challenge you to look at what the scholarship requires, what those free resources are as well, but maybe change your perspective as well. What can you get out of this opportunity for applying for the scholarship overall as well? Nothing's
Yeah.
wasted.
So I'm going to ask you guys a couple of sidebar questions. I'll start with you, Tracie. Tracie, how did you get involved in Women in Corporate Aviation? I know you were involved with Women in Aviation International before. Tell us about a little bit about your path.
So my path is very unique. I'll keep it short. I was actually in nursing school working in a pediatric emergency room while going to, working as my way through college. And my friend called me and said, "Hey, remember that favor you owe me?" Um, and again, longtime friend. She had been working for on and off for like 10 years as she was getting her degree working at the front desk of Universal Weather and Aviation, a logistics company that supports business aviation flights, so schedulers and logistics. And she's like, "Oh, I got the dream, the call of my life, my dream job, but I have to start in a week. And if you're a professional and you're growing your career, you need to give your 2 weeks. That's what you do. However, when you're working a temporary role, sometimes the rules are a little bit more flex, but because she's a professional and she had been working with the company for a long time, she called in her favor. And just so happens when I started, it was during a time the company was going through an organizational shift. And then there was Hurricane Katrina. So basically, the opportunity arose, and I showed an interest, and the rest is history. I never left.
So
So
you fell into
after
aviation.
I fell into it, yes. So 19 years later, I am an aviation security professional. Is yes. So they're, like you said, non-technical, non-flying, but aviation security. I know we don't highlight as much because there's a lot of confidentiality around it. But if you have a safety background, criminal justice, confidentiality, even contracts. See me after the call as well. There's a lot of opportunities.
Well, I was teasing you, but I'm glad to bring it up, and there's a reason I'm asking you, and I'm going to ask Becca the same thing, because the thing I like to point out is a lot of people in aviation, people tend to think that, oh, they were dreaming about aviation since they were 3 years old or something, and that's not
Right.
always the case. In fact, in many cases, that's not the case. There were people that were pursuing, like yourself and others, a whole different career, had nothing to do with our
Absolutely.
industry, and then uh, things happen, and before you know, they're in our industry, which is great because it goes back to what I said at the very beginning. Whatever your skill set is, you just mentioned security, it applies in this industry. Now, security in corporate aviation is at a whole nother level for sure, but it's still something that is a great example of that. And there's a young lady that's trying to pursue, she was on one of my shows about a month ago, and she's trying to become an airline pilot. But when she was in college, she was studying psychology, you know, and I forget how, but she got introduced to aviation, and as they say, the rest is history.
The rest
She's
is
just
history.
finished at United Aviate Academy, and now she's looking for that first, flying uh, no, I wanted to say a shuttle, but the smaller commuter
Peter.
airline to the feeder. That's the word I was looking for. To fly a feeder that'll feed into a major job with United and that type of thing. So,
Yes, I was about to say I'm definitely one of those people. I didn't take a flight until I was 21, so I was already actually working in that corporate role before I actually went to an airport. The only time I saw aviation was when I saw the planes or museum, and that's why access and what we do is so important in EAA specifically. I wish I would have known. Yeah, absolutely.
back then. So,
Right.
Becca, your turn.
All right. I also fell into aviation.
Look.
I did not fly, and other than once when I went to Disney when I was in middle school, did not fly in a plane until I was 26, maybe. Um, I came here to EAA because of my background in education. So I come from college admissions, which puts me in a great place to be able to work with students, starting their dreams. And regardless of what age you are, I came here, like I said, didn't take a flight until I'm 26. And last year I got to take a flight in a World War II bomber. So there have been so many great opportunities. I'm not from an aviation background. I grew up by an airport, and I didn't even know about any of the opportunities that, um, you know, even back then we had, EAA chapters, and we had our Young Eagles program, and I just wasn't aware of any of it, which is why it's so important to get the word out of everything
Yes,
that,
indeed.
EAA's foundation and all these
Yeah.
other organizations do for our youth and for our second career seeking students as well.
Absolutely. AOPA, Aircraft Owner and Pilots Association, Women in Corporate Aviation, Women in Aviation International, EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, and we could go on and on. We call ourselves the aviation alphabets, right? So,
Yes.
so
Aviation
no,
alphabet.
this is great. I just did. I wanted to sidetrack just a little bit to talk about that because both of you are great examples, and I could tell a million stories. I had some military helicopter pilots, all women. Um, One was an art history major, one was an English lit major, and something else unrelated to aviation. I don't remember the third one. All unrelated to aviation, yet they ended up coming into aviation and being these incredible helicopter pilots, that are doing some great stuff in that world.
And
As we
even if
kind of
you're not, or if you're a graphic designer or a journalist or media, and
right,
that's the beautiful part about the corporate. There is a corporate organization more than likely that also either has a flight department or doing that. Flight
absolutely,
nurses, medical flights. We have flight doctors and flight nurses specifically. So even
yes,
on that side, the access, the opportunities are endless. So
yeah.
take
If you're a
advantage.
designer, you can do aircraft interiors.
Mhm.
Somebody has to know what kind of material and what the design should possibly look like and all of those things. And we could go on and on with that. As we kind of wrap up here, I wanted to kind of recap what you guys have and also how people can get in touch with you to find out or get in touch with your organization to find out more about the scholarship opportunities. So I'll start with you, Becca. If you want to just kind of recap the different scholarships that you have and then how people can get in touch.
Of course. Yeah. So here at the EAA Aviation Foundation, we do have all donor-based scholarships in flight training for private pilot license and advanced ratings. We have post-secondary that can cover aviation-related college or tech programs. We do have camperships that can help cover the tuition of coming to the summer camp in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And we do have our race scholarships that do focus on the chapters that we do have around the country here. Is EAA as a whole, as a student, take advantage of the free opportunities that we have, whether that's attending AirVenture, doing the Aero Educate online programs, taking a Young Eagles flight. Definitely get involved in any way you can.
Absolutely. That's a great summation. And how do they get in touch? For example, what's your website address for scholarships?
Yep. EAA.org/scholarships, or you can email me at scholarships@eaa.org. Split them.
There you go.
There you
And
go.
also, you can just go to EAA.org and check out your website and find out all of the different things that EAA offers, particularly for young people interested in aviation. Let's go to you, Trace.
Yes, so as you mentioned in the opening, our spring scholarship round just opened yesterday. So now is the optimal time, and the window closes March 29th. And we do have those leadership scholarships with EJM for an aviation management. You're looking to enhance your career. We have an advanced rating. You have to hold your private pilot's license. Solaris is offering that. So if it's instrument, commercial, ATP, whatever that looks like for you and your journey. And then Women in Corporate Aviation, we're in partnership with Netflix, offering a $2,500 scholarship as well. And you can use that for many aspects, regardless of what your technical function is. Schedulers and dispatchers, that's the one where the opportunity, if there's something that's leadership, then reach out to us. That one has a little bit more open where you can apply the funds. And then we also went over those flight attendant and cabin crew opportunities that are training, that are not just calling it cabin safety, as well as food handling, recurrent as well as initial. So I know a lot of times we see those initial ones out there, but I want to make sure that everyone knows that both of those partners, Da Vinci, VVIP, and Air Care, that if you have already had your initial, then you can use it for recurrent training. So it's just open to both. Sometimes people just see initial and they kind of don't think it applies to them, but it is also for recurrent. And then as well, we discussed that professional use scholarship opportunity as well. And please, no matter if you're just starting out, maybe in a career transition, the additional modules that are offered is one-on-one with the creator, and the wealth and depth of information as a professional, I know can help anyone. So to be a member, to apply, sorry, for scholarships for Women in Corporate Aviation, you do need to be a member. Again, that student membership is 25, and it starts at $50 for an individual member if you're not currently enrolled in continuing education. And again, we do have additional donor memberships. So if that cost is prohibitive for you, please reach out to me directly. We do have a specific scholarship chair. His name is Jim Huntoon, and he has been literally amazing helping us with everything scholarships. And under his guidance, we have a completely great electronic, easy system where you can upload your information, see all the rules for every single specific scholarship. You can see the report card that it's graded against and the weighted average for the
Wow.
specific requirements. So even before you think about uploading a document, we've really tried to make it as clear as possible so everyone has the best opportunity. This isn't an I got you. This is we really want to connect and offer you, our members, the next stage that you need assistance in your career, wherever that is. And our corporate partners and donors are right there along that journey and are willing to help us. So we couldn't do anything without them.
Yeah, and your website address again is?
Yes, so it's WCA-INTL.org. So Women in Corporate Aviation, that hash, and it's short for international, because again, we do have members, I believe it's on 40 different countries, and some of our scholarships are open to our international members. So definitely read the fine print.
Gotcha. And Becca, so there's some deadlines coming up. Your flight training I see is February 28th, where you
Yeah, February 28th, both for the flight training and post-secondary
and
scholarships.
post-secondary. And then I guess it varies for your Air Academy camperships.
Yeah, so Air Academy is already filled up for this
Right,
summer.
right, right.
But if you are going to be attending in a future year, we do have those camperships open every year. But if you are in the Air Academy camp for the summer and are looking for some funding, we do have those available through the end of April.
All right. So
Amazing.
one of the things I do as I wrap up the show is I like to do an around the room. So our room is small today, just three of us. So I'll start with you, Becca, and just anything you'd like to say as you wrap things up, or any comments you'd like to make.
Yeah, really, I just want to end it with a big thank you to you, Vince, for hosting us today and helping us get the word out about all the different opportunities that we have. And also a shout out to our donors, because we couldn't do any of this without you. We wouldn't be able to have any of the scholarships or educational programs, or even the safety programs that we do have here without them.
Absolutely a key component, the support, the donors. Absolutely. But you guys have a great program. I know I sound like I'm a little biased about it, but gosh, I love your air venture. It's just a fantastic program. I wish everybody knew about it and you guys had 1.4 million instead of just 700,000. But anyhow, it's great
Don't
stuff.
worry.
And the chapters that you guys have around the country, et cetera. You have great opportunities for young people to really get immersed in aviation, and I think that's fantastic. How about you, Tracie?
Oh man, I echo everything. Thank you, Vince. Absolutely. And to our donors. And you're never too old to apply for a scholarship. I think people as they go there might be stigma around it, but it is an opportunity. You're saying something, you're using your voice. You're also showing either your organization or that association that you do want something, right? And sometimes it's a little bit easier than voicing and saying that right out, either the professional development opportunity or what that looks like. But you have to know what you want and how to ask for it. And this is a great opportunity to get that practice as applying for scholarships, as Becca said, asking for feedback and being able to take that feedback and apply it and engage and keep trying if you don't win the first time.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, I really appreciate both of you taking the time to be on the show. I think you both have great organizations. I love both of your passion for our industry and the things forward we're providing for young people and for anybody that's actually, whether you're already in it, as you mentioned, and things like that. So it's really great to have you guys. And thank you so much for being on All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You've been watching and or listening to All Things Aviation and Aerospace, executive produced by me, Vince Mickens, and is a production of the Private Air Media Group. I welcome you to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Hopefully, you found this aviation scholarship special helpful and informative. Please feel free to message me on LinkedIn or Facebook if you have any questions or you'd like to get in touch with these ladies. You can also contact them directly at their organizations, and in case there's something that we may not have covered. Until next time, please stay safe, fly safe if you're a pilot like me, and blue skies. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.